Well, for reference, I'm using this Flex Bond thin set in a white, and this is polymer modified. This is about twice the money over their other thin set that they had, and the only true reason I went with this are twofold. One, it got good reviews. I don't know much about this, so that's all I had to go on. And two, it supposedly has some type of crack prevention built into it. Other than that, no other reason. Well, as far as how I'm mixing it in small batches. I'm starting with a little water in the pail first, putting in some powder, and then starting to whip it up with this double auger mixer. But the consistency I'm shooting for, and I'll try to show where I'm at right now, as hopefully you can see it's just slowly dripping off there. It's probably a little tight right now, but I've mixed it a few minutes ago and I'm already in my wait time. Another test would be to just scrape the trowel through it and make sure your ridges stand there. So after this sits for 5 or 10 minutes, I'll whip it up again, check it for the consistency. They say something like peanut butter or mayonnaise, pancake batter. I'll just get it close, and if I need to add a little bit more water, I'll add a little bit at that time. Well, here's a quick note on what I'm doing in terms of applying the thin set. The first thing I'm doing before I put it on is I'm wiping the wall down with a damp sponge, and that's serving two purposes. One, to remove any residual dust that may still be left on it, and two, to moisten the wall a little bit so this Durock doesn't just wick and suck all the moisture out of the mortar. And then when I apply it, I'm actually skimming a coat on, getting it really firmly attached to the wall first, and then I'm coming back and I'm creating my notches before I set the tile. Okay, well, I've got 4 courses installed. Now you can really see the corners of what I was talking about, wrapping them around there. It's uniform, looks nice, and it's identical on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and describe how I went about this, starting on the ledger board. Now this ledger board was not quite straight. It had a slight curve in it. It was crooked, so when I mounted it, I put the crown facing down. And I mounted it on the line in both corners, knowing full well that this was going to be just the slightest amount off. So the first thing I did was lay the first course of tile across, all the way across the back. Then I brought in a level, a straight edge, and I set it on the top. I checked it from corner to corner to make sure that it was level, and it was. And then I used these little tile wedges right here to go in and just bring the tiles up to the bottom of the level all the way across. And then that set that first row perfectly level, and every 3 or 4 rows I'll double check and make sure that I'm still level and all the tiles are still touching, and I'll make small corrections if I need to with those wedges. The most important part is the first course you put on. Everything else will kind of fall in line, but if you're a little bit off, you may be way off as you make that run. So it's very important to get the first one in properly. Well, alright guys, got the soap dish installed in the back corner. Entire back wall, bullnosing and all, is finished. This wall over here with the bullnose is complete as well, all the way up. And then I was working on this one over here going up the wall, and that is where I ran out of thinset. So I'm going to shut down for the day, and then I'll complete this tomorrow. My objective now is to get this one 100% complete, wrapped up, with the exception of the grout, and then I'll get the other one in the same state and finish it to the same level. Then I'll come in and I'll grout them both at the same time. Alright, well, I'm getting ready to finish this wall up over here, but since I was going to mix up thinset and have more than I needed, I wanted to go ahead and work out this bottom row. So I'm going to describe here what I'm doing to match this to the tub since it was bowed down in the middle. You can see right here number 6, I'm laying these out and marking these with a grease pencil so I'll know where they go, and I'm pre-cutting and dry fitting everything. So that's a full tile on 6, and then 7 here starts tapering up and getting shorter on this right hand side, 8 and so on. They're basically tapers. This is how I'm figuring out the taper. I've got 9 here setting on the tile, and I'm supporting it and I've got this level against the bottom row. So now I've rested this on here, and I've set the distance on my compass, and I'm scribing from the top of the tub to the bottom of this tile, ensuring I'm leaving enough for a small gap, scribing along that tile, lining it up to the blade on the wet saw and cutting it off. I'm finished installing the tile in this back bathroom here. All in all, I think it turned out quite nice, especially for this being my first time laying tile. It is a little time consuming because I was very methodical and patient in my process. The second one is going in about half the time. That's usually the way it works. The first things you do always take the longest. I'm about halfway finished with it, and I'll give a quick shot once it's complete. Alright guys, well, we got this one wrapped up here. This is the first time I've been able to get far enough from it to be able to get it all in the camera almost. This one actually went in better than half the time. The way we did this is my wife started laying the thinset on the wall and combing it out. I'd start putting tiles on until I got to a point where I needed to make a cut in the corner, and then she would continue spreading and laying tiles, and then I would make cuts for her. So I pretty much just jumped back and forth between putting on a few tiles, tile saw, checking courses, and she laid all the thinset down and laid whatever tiles she had time to do. The plan worked out quite well, and it turned out quite nice.